Alrighty guys, welcome back to another Lawhorde gameplay video. We are recording a game here from my first round of set champs for Fable at our local game store. So big shout out to Mega Games in Penrith. So if you haven't heard of them, they are down on High Street. That is in New South Wales for those watching overseas. But we are looking here at a gameplay video from Game 2 of a best of 3 in a mirror match of Emerald and Sapphire. A little bit of spice in both decks. A good friend Santiago, so big shout out to him for letting me capture the game. But sadly, I was unfortunately not recording for the first round. The first hand of this game was an absolute clincher. It was really, really difficult to sort of make those moves and see how we were going. But I did end up taking home the first game of the best of 3 here. Purely, I think, because of the dice roll, I did roll higher, so I got to start the game, and it ended up being a 22-0 first hand of this game here. But we're going to get into game 2 here. So what we are seeing is just a quick shuffle, bit of a lineup here of the decks cutting, and we are going to crack into it now. So Santi opts to play on the play here instead of on the draw for the game 2. Looking at the mulligan choices here, interesting. I think I mulliganed away an interesting hand, but on turn 1, we are seeing a Donald Duck go straight into the Inkwell there for a Clarabelle, and myself go for the Bobby to cycle the deck and see what we draw. It is a Donald Duck, which does not need to be in my hand at this point in the game. We've got a bit of an interesting one here with some turn 2 ramp, turn 3 Pleakley, and obviously the shift Clarabelle as well, with a target to go on. Santiago on his turn 2 opting for a Sail the Azurite Sea and obviously inking again with a sail. Now turn 2, a Vision of the Future goes in the Inkwell for me. At this point in the game, it's not really going to come in handy, and it will slow tempo a lot if I miss ramp and don't opt to do it. So we're going to put a Tipo down instead, and I believe we chucked a Max Goof into the Inkwell there. Yes, an inkable card. But we want to try and keep that Baymax for a potential early Under the Sea to get rid of some of his Clarabelle shift targets, or even things like a Basil. Now, I believe this was round 3 of the day, going in to a 5-round Swiss with a top 8 cut. Turn 4 here for Santiago, plays a big 5/5 Scrooge McDuck with 2 lore on the card, 3 represented on board, and is passing turn here for me to ink, heads held high, and choose a Clarabelle to start off and give myself a chance next turn to shift into the big cow. Another Scrooge coming down there, representing 5 lore and 11 strength on board. Santi questing for 2 there to get the first lore on the board. Me choosing to now ink. I believe we ink the Pleakley, getting to 5 and shift into the Clarabelle here. So here we're just sort of thinking, am I going to get any benefit here from the Clarabelle? So it's just me asking how many cards Santi has in hand ready to go. Unfortunately, no you're welcome, so I don't get to make much use out of it other than drawing just 1 card, which happens to be another Clarabelle, the 3-cost shift target Clarabelle. Santi choosing to ink a Basil here and sing Under the Sea to get rid of my potential Baymax shift line, which is quite an interesting play here. Reducing targets for me to get bigger hitter characters out on board is a bit interesting here, but we're going to opt to ink that Clarabelle and play down Baymax regardless. Now I'm just deciding here whether or not I want to put Scrooge into the discard with a challenge through Clarabelle, but obviously that will leave it open for a 1-drop Clarabelle to take out mine. Not a favorable trade there at all. Santi opting to ink the big cow. Pass turn. So now we are at 7 ink, and we're going to choose to play Hades here, opting to get rid of one of those big bodies and quest for 4. drawing a card from Clarabelle and passing turn. Now here we're going to get a taste of our own medicine here, which is a big thing in the mirror match. Hades is coming down to remove Clarabelle from play. Bit of an interesting choice here. Obviously, neither one of us at this stage in the game has many cards left in hand. Neither one has managed to pull off a "You're welcome." Obviously, one of the big things in this deck that is a serious do I don't I with the "You're welcomes" is next turn, are they going to play Bend to My Will, which makes your opponent discard their entire hand. One of the best plays I've seen with this deck, and managed to pull it off a couple of times myself, is getting that Clarabelle down next turn, singing two "You're welcomes" with her and another character I have out on board that can sing it, and then paying that 7, discarding their entire hand after giving them 4 cards. Going to opt here for a Sail the Azurite Sea, dig a little bit deeper, and go for a 6-cost John Silver, making the Scrooge reckless. Now opting to give that Scrooge a target here with Baymax, questing for 2. But obviously we're going to get a little bit greedy here and quest for another 2, going to 8 total with the Hades. Does give the Scrooge an option to survive in a challenge directly, but let's see what Santi does in this matchup. In this turn, how does he respond? Just choosing to show that I have 2 cards left in hand, in case that Clarabelle does indeed come down. All while having a little sweet treat, which I am a bit of a sucker for, jelly beans. Don't know if anybody else really likes jelly beans, but I am a big fan. Even bigger fan of the Hades Infernal Schemer, and obviously the Clarabelle coming down in this deck. It's a combo I've tried to get working since Azurite Sea came out, with some of those really cool Duel Link cards in set 7 as well coming in to help. But we are going to see Santi here play the Stop Chaos in its tracks, returning his own Hades to his hand here. Now, bit of spice in this deck. It's an interesting play, because what we are opting to do is, because Hades' effect is an on-play, we're going to see that Clarabelle come back, and the Hades getting rid of John Silver, which can be a big tempo problem for a lot of decks these days when he plays and when he's questing. That obviously gives Reckless to a chosen character, so it can prevent a lot of tempo. So just counting out the ink I have available to me this turn, not sure the turn number that we are at here, but we are looking for an answer to the Hades and the Clarabelle to make sure that we can get board advantage. Opting there to quest Hades for 2, going to a total of 10 versus 2 in this game too. And Santi going for a develop to see if he can find an answer that he needs to respond to the Max Goof. Now, for those that don't know, like Santi here, having a quick read of this car, Max Goof on quest lets you play a song with cost 4 or less for free from your discard, much like Ursula, Deceiver of All, except this time it goes around the Gantu that stops actions costing more, because we are simply playing it from the discard on a quest. However, not to be confused with a double sing like Ursula, Deceiver of All. So Santi's big cow comes down here. We're going to get rid of my shift target just on the off chance I draw into one of the larger cows. Smart play. We do like it. One thing with these mirror matches is you do have to be conscious that that Clarabelle can come down at any point and start singing "You're Welcome" to remove board threats. But here we are looking unfortunate, as we did end up drawing into a Clarabelle with no shift target and not ready to go now. Got to wait for her to dry. And still no "You're Welcome" in sight, so me struggling to find a song to respond to this board here, opting instead to challenge straight into the Hades with both Max Goof and my own Hades, taking 3 damage each. Now, Santi here, perfect time in the game to start looking and digging through the deck. So top 5 cards here, courtesy of a Vision of the Future, looking interesting and as a play here to find some of the answers for any of my characters on the board. All 3 of them quest for 2 lore, so a big threat to jump to 16 lore next turn if I am not dealt with. Inking a Vision here and opting for a Basil to return my Clarabelle straight to my hand. A good choice here, I'm sure. Now, Santi is deciding if he wants to challenge in here, I think. From memory, it was a tough call to decide what to do here. That Basil 7-cost Inkable, really quite a competitive card in these blue-green decks. Also, I think we do see some going around being called Baja Blast, but I do prefer the normal name here, Emerald Sapphire. Clarabelle then obviously going to take that challenge, take the 4 damage straight into the Max Goof, stopping a potential double your welcome with Hades as well. So now we come to find some answers. We are looking through our deck, going to find the top card from those 5, and I believe it is the enchanted version of Hades Infernal Schemer. So we're going to see that come down now, I think. 8 ink left to go. Going to take their Clarabelle out, opting now to, I think, play this Hades. I think it's a good time to get rid of the other big threat on their board. That Basil, of course, does, on quest, have to make me discard a card at random from my hand. So down he comes. Beautiful artwork. I think my favorite enchanted artwork of all time in Disney Lorcana. So big shout out to Ravensburger and the illustrator there for getting that into my hands. All right, so Basil was removed, and we've got 2 Donalds coming down, ready to go. Obviously, the Emerald Floodborn is going to draw both of us a card at the start of Santiago's turn here. Little Clarabelle questing for 1 with a pass turn here. Going to quest the Hades here for 2. And then shift him straight into the Baymax to get rid of another card in my hand. We want to try and get use out of this Clarabelle. So we are going to spend 7 for her and 4 to shift Baymax. Opting for Strength over Shiny, which is a difficult choice sometimes in these games because we do love an enchanted card in the deck. We do take a draw from Donald. Santi further digging in his deck here for an answer. I believe one of the cards here was indeed You're Welcome, looking at how he might play this if he chooses to keep it from the top 5. Just checking his hand there to see what is the better option here for him at this point in the game. It is 12-4, and we're looking pretty comfortable right now. But these games in the mirror matches, they can turn at any given point. You never know. And we'll see as we go through the game, it becomes quite tense indeed. Now Santi does opt to play his own Clarabelle, which I believe is the 3rd or 4th copy. We'll see. And sing You're Welcome on my cow. So after a little bit of time here, a few weeks playing this deck at my local league, I finally got a taste of my own medicine with the You're Welcome here. Shuffling Clarabelle into my deck, and after a quick cut from Santiago, I will draw 2 cards. Questing there with the Donald and the small Clarabelle, making sure that I drew the 2 from the You're Welcome. Santiago making sure to catch his Clarabelle trigger, and I will draw for 10. Now, at this point in the game, I'm kind of worried that board is pretty dangerous for me. We are going to opt to start dealing with that here, with a Hades Infernal Schemer coming down to put that Clarabelle back in his Inkwell, away from me. Away from danger, away from me. So we're going to Inkatipo here. We're going to choose to challenge into that Donald there. A fairly safe option with the Baymax being a 5/5 willpowered and strength character. And I think what we will choose to do here, just to keep Baymax alive, is to shuffle him into our own deck and draw 2. At this point in the game, we do need some cards in hand. We're looking pretty light. We are looking for answers. I think here what we could have done on reflection is probably get rid of that Donald, but I was a bit hesitant on the day to give my opponent here more answers than I was prepared to risk having on the board. So the game is now 12-7 at this stage. We are looking pretty tense at this point. We are in game 2. Obviously, is a 1-0 so far to me, and we are looking to hold on to that lead as best as we can. And this game does prove to be a bit of a slog. So playing down double Donald Ducks there. The Perfect Gentleman coming down in storming fashion, and questing for 3 there, going to 10 for Santiago. 2 cards left in hand there. And we will draw. We are going to have to look for answers here. But I think we have finally found them. We are going to opt to do some responding here. We have it Under the Sea in hand. We have that Enchanted Hades back in hand as well from the shuffle and the cut, which is interesting. We are going to hard cast the Under the Sea here. We do have plenty of resource to be able to do so. And that's going to remove all but 1 threat on the board. And obviously take away that crucial draw power that Donald does provide for Emerald players here. Going to quest the Hades for 2, going to 14. And finish off by exerting the remaining ink in my Inkwell. Now, not necessary to do this, and I'm pretty sure it might actually not be legal to do, but it does help me remember that everything is able to be reset at the start of my next turn, and sometimes here I do ready after passing turn just to make sure that I don't miss anything for the next turn. Misplays can happen. I want to make sure that we're not misplaying in a competitive tournament where resource does matter in a mirror match. So the John Silver comes down there to make Hades reckless. But we are going to see the Basil come down and actually not trigger the bounce effect that he has. So we are going to have to remember that we do need to either challenge or potentially sing that you're welcome in hand. Now we do opt to do that, and I think we choose to do the John Silver, remove the big threat that can really stall tempo, especially as we are so close in the game now. It is 14-12 in game 2. Little cut here. After the shuffle, Santiago is going to draw back 2 more cards from his deck, and I'm going to ink a max goof here just to keep my resource as far ahead as I possibly can get it. We're going to put down another Hades. We have 7 ink left in hand, so those 2 cards are also, with the remainder of his hand going straight to the discard there. Me just checking what I got rid of, and not much as it turns out, but still a tempo slow nonetheless. He does play a Donald Duck back again from the deck in quests for 2, matching me now at 14. Now we are looking pretty comfortable here with 2 big willpower characters on board, questing for 4, going to 18 here. Now the end of this game is very, very interesting to sort of see play out. We do get a difficult play and a difficult choice for Santiago. He played very, very well on the day. He has a chaos stopped in its tracks in his hand, and we are going to see what he does. Thinking here, it is the game-making decision, and in these tournaments, pressure really can just get to you. You know, you do think about how do we deal with a potential loss here, as we are counting ink, counting resource, making sure that we can do as much as we can. A helpful tip I heard about Lorcana recently was actually from Rebecca Quest, so big shout out to her, who was reiterating at DLC Bologna that a tip she had for Disney Lorcana is often the player who spends as much of their resources as possible, much of their ink, tends to come out on top. Being able to play out as much as they can, overwhelm your opponent, is an interesting skill to have, an ability to have playing Disney Lorcana. Still thinking here with the decision. It is a tough one. We are still waiting to see what Santiago does here, but we are looking at a pretty lethal board here with two Hades Infernal Schemers, obviously one with that really beautiful shiny artwork. And Santiago now choosing instead to exert two characters here, or not, deciding he's going to spend the 8 for Stop Chaos in his tracks to return a Bobby and a Hades, opting to play the Clarabelle to get a card draw and see if he can get another response. Unfortunately, we're going to challenge in, and he realizes that there's just one strength less than he needs to do it, and that is game 2 to me after such a tense mirror match at Set Champs here. A fantastic game against a brilliant player. Well done to Santiago. Alrighty guys, thank you so much for watching. I hope my commentary was bearable and did it some justice here. First time casting a game in that fashion. It was pre-recorded obviously, but I had a lot of fun on the day. Set Champs was insane. I think I ended up going into 7th place as I was walking into round 5, final round of Swiss, against a good friend who did end up beating me. So I got knocked out in the final round. As hard as I tried, it was against an Amber Steel aggro deck, but the day was still very, very fun. A lot of good games, a lot of lessons learned about what to do and what not to do with this Emerald Sapphire deck. But stick around, stay tuned for the next gameplay video. We've got a lot more footage from Set Champs. I'm hoping to share some really, really soon, but we are still in the middle of the season, so it is a little bit hectic at the minute. But thank you very much for watching. I'll see you in the next one.